So, hey guys, welcome to the newest episode of the SaaS Sessions podcast. This is me, Sunil. I'm your host for today. I have Akshata Kamath with me today on this episode. So, Akshata heads content marketing at Moengage. Moengage is one of the fastest growing customer engagement SaaS company in India. And I have hosted Ravi Teja, who is the CEO of Moengage, to talk the story of Moengage before on the same podcast. So, you can go and check that episode out as well. So, hey Akshata, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sunil. Thank you so much for having me over, Sunil. Really excited. I think we've been talking about doing this for some time,
Yeah,
but
definitely. Finally, it happens
yeah,
today.
yeah. Finally excited to talk to you on this. I know we've spoken otherwise, but on the podcast. So excited to be on your podcast. I've been listening to this for a while now, and I think you bring out really good insights to this. So thanks for having me over.
Thanks for that compliment, Akshata. Yeah. So, is there any intro that you would want the people to know more about you?
Yeah, so if I were to introduce myself, I would start with writing. I think my passion for writing is at the core of why I am in this point in my career and in this field and in this company. I think everything starts from there. I've always had a passion for writing right from when I was very young back in school. And the other thing that I was always interested in is technology, which is why I sort of pursued my engineering. And then when I started looking out for work, I was looking for product kind of companies. And what happened is early in my career, I found an opportunity for technical writing. And this sort of, blended perfectly for me because it took my writing skills in a technical sort of setup. So it was the perfect job I could dream of. And I started working there. I could apply what I knew, and I could also do write. Uh, Sorry, I'll say that again. So I could do what I like, and I could also write. So that was really interesting. So this job I did was with Conserve Systems, which is now part of Schneider Electric. From there I transitioned to a technical writing role at Missouri, where I moved from writing to marketing and then content marketing. And this was a time again when content marketing was gaining prominence. So that's where I learned a lot about content marketing and how it works. And it was an interesting journey over there. From there to Simply Learn, and now to back to Moengage. It's been an interesting journey of sorts, and I feel like I've been with content marketing for so long now. It's really it kind of defines a lot of things for me, and it's really very special for me, this space. Yeah, and I think content marketing is now at the center of any company's marketing function. So it's even more exciting for me to be in this space right now.
Right. So, I'm talking to a lot of marketing leaders, and what they are saying is like now is the time your consumers are researching about your product, right, or your service or your offering, and which team does a better job than the content team to educate your customers and giving them all resources that they want now, so that they can make the purchase decision 6 months down the line when all this pans out. So I think content is definitely one great channel for that every company should put a lot of focus on. So, like, what all do you take care at Moengage? Can you tell us more on that?
Yeah, at Moengage, I oversee content marketing as a function. So you just give introduction to Moengage, but it's a customer engagement platform that helps a lot of consumer brands stay connected with their audiences. So even during times like these, when physical touch points are not possible, or people are still not, some of the apps or the websites cannot sell their products or their services, they can still stay connected with their consumers, and our platform helps them do that. So what this means is that there's a lot of emphasis on user centricity for our consumers, for our audience. And as the content marketing team and someone who looks after the team over here, for us, one of the biggest areas is to look after the audience and understand what's going on, understand their needs, understand what they're interested in, how and it completely shifts like in a situation like this. So that's one of the core areas we look at from a consumer, from our user perspective, from our audience perspective. What is it they're looking for? What kind of information helps them? So I think if I have to tell you what my team does or what my function does, our role is to make our users smarter. We help them with the consumer trends. We provide them content that helps them do things better. We help them with ideas and ways to do things in an easier or improved manner that they're already doing, and also point them towards what we see as a future in terms of marketing or engagement. So that's the premise of what my team does. So yeah, any kind of content that we produce is centered around these 4 or 5 thoughts.
Right, so you're like an in-company library of content, right? Like that everyone like in any team can reach out to just get to know about anything that you guys are doing, right? Because not all teams are updated on what their customers are doing, or maybe of the case studies, or how the customers is actually using the product and stuff like that. But obviously a great job in educating all the teams inside the company, and also the customers and the prospects, updating all of them with all this information. So that's a really great thing. So yeah, so we're gonna have like a technical discussion on like the content stack that you guys, or you and your team is using at Moengage. So what is the content stack comprised of at Moengage?
So I think everybody is very familiar with the Martech stack, and there are multiple versions of this, and you've seen so many representations. And but for content, I think it's more simpler. It's not so cluttered. There are 3 or 4 core layers, and within that, I think there are a few things. At least that's how I envision looking at the tools we've been using, and looking at the way the things are, the art platforms or the content tools are lined up for us. I think there needs to be a CMS, obviously, because it's the core. So CMS is that large container that holds all of your digital content in one place, right? So blogs, landing pages, resources, your creatives, house it all in one place. So that CMS tool is very important to sort of house everything in one place, so that it's easy to repurpose, use across the board whenever required. So maintaining consistency or repurposing some of it becomes that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a set of tools you'll use for content production and distribution,
Mm-hmm.
which is primarily you'll use a lot of tools for ideation, research, production, distribution. So I think there are 4 or 5 subcategories there, but primarily once I have a CMS to house all the content that I'm producing, then the next layer I see is of the act of producing itself. So a bunch of tools for creating that content and then distributing that content is the next sort of set for me. And the final set is the analytics, right? So because we are in a day and age where there is abundant information available in terms of data, in terms of how each of these have fared, and we are also in a day and age where we want to optimize our spends, we want to optimize our efforts, do things that are working, improve things that are not working. So analytics also is very important. So I think there are these 3 areas that primarily form the stack for me.
That's really interesting. So can you go into more details on these three layers of stack, or these 3 layers in your content stack that you have at Moengage?
Yeah, I think from a CMS perspective, I'd like to have one platform. That's not happened. We obviously have multiple places. That's primarily, I think, because each of these are not fully developed to support content marketing needs. So right now we have HubSpot and WordPress, tools like that for managing the CMS for us. Then there is a set of tools I think we use for various, I would group them by the activity itself, activity of content production and distribution, right? So the first area is research and ideation, which means that before we start producing some content, we want to be sure that this is the right piece of content. There is a market for
Right.
this. People actually interested in consuming this, right? So that's the first piece. And I think here we are fairly using common tools like BuzzSumo, Ahref, the ones that are there. So largely leaning on keyword densities, the kind of traffic that is available, the kind of questions that people are asking. We also look at Quora, by the way, sometimes,
Right.
because it's interesting to find out what questions people are asking on a particular topic, right? And these questions vary. So while these search volume tools, these keyword tools give you a sort of indication, Quora is also an interesting place because a lot of people are asking questions there.
Right.
So these are some tools that we look at when we do our research and sort of our ideating on what to write. Of course, there are some tools that HubSpot has for topic generators, idea generators, but I think they're not advanced enough for us to really come up with ideas, at least for the B2B SaaS market. I think for B2C it works well. But yeah, I think from a research perspective, these are two or three tools that we look at.
Right.
Then
And
after research and ideation, then if I were to look at writing, editing, that whole part of producing the content, there are multiple layers there as well. So if I look at writing, editing, all of that, there's obviously Grammarly, QText for plagiarism. There is something called as Hemingway app, which is a free tool because Grammarly is a paid tool. So there's Hemingway app, which is a completely free tool but does a beautiful job of not only highlighting your grammar mistakes, it also tells you voice and tense and readability score, so it's perfect.
mhm,
So these are some tools we use for writing edX. Then there is, after you write, then there is graphics, and if you want video, all of that. So obviously there are the heavy duty Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, and all of that. But if I were to sort of suggest for listeners who want to hear about tools that are not so popular, there's Lumen 5. I don't know how many people have used them, but
yeah,
Lumen 5 is a video production tool. It has a paid scheme package, but if you're also on a free sort of a sign up, it's quite good. You can produce videos really fast, like a 30 second, or they have a large stock video library, which is very awesome, and you don't really need to have too many editing or video skills to use this tool. So it's almost like a Canva for video making. So
right.
Lumen 5 is something that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Infogram is another tool, not very popular but really good. So Infogram helps you create interactive infographics, right? So
Yeah.
you can click on certain parts, you can have some graphs moving, so it's more engaging. So these are two tools that are not popularly known. Again, can be
Right.
used as user, or if you want to use their advanced features, there are paid advanced features available as well. But I think these have helped us a lot.
Yeah, so just want to add one point there. So yeah, I used
Mhm.
to work at Rocketium, which is a competitor for Lumen 5. So I just want to say that
Mhm.
Rocketium is also one of the great tools out there. So you can try that as well in if in case you don't like Lumen 5. And yeah,
Yeah,
you can go ahead.
I've used Rocketium as well
Mm-hmm.
in the past. I think Rocketium has a lot of templates which are very good, which Lumen doesn't
Yeah.
have. They
Yeah,
offer a
yeah.
lot of ready-made templates which you can easily plug in and sort of start using. Yeah, I think that's a great tool
Right.
as well.
Totally. Yeah.
Then coming to distribution, I think
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
everybody knows the usual Buffer or the social media tools that are there. You also
Right.
know about HubSpot, which can be used for, say, emails and for blog publishing if you want to, or all of that. But there is again another tool that I would strongly recommend, more so a channel, which is Zest,
Uh-huh.
which
Oh,
is
nice. Yeah.
which is a more recent channel. So I mean, again, if you want to sponsor something and put up sponsored content, that works as well. But even organically, if your content is really good, it gets a lot of visibility, you get a lot of audience from there, really gives you a good reach. And the best part about Zest is that they are very strict in terms of what content they want to put up on their platform. So if it is not good enough, they're not going to put. So that itself adds a lot of credibility. So people who are consuming content there, they already know that this has been validated by Zest. I think that sort of clears that first step for people to click on your content piece at all. So Zest is another, I think, not so typically used channel that
Right.
I very strongly recommend for distribution. Anything
Totally.
you've used for podcasts on the podcast side?
Mostly, so it's all these apps that allows you to listen to podcasts for sure. Like any hosting provider for podcast will give you all these distribution channels, right? But morely, what you can do with podcast is in terms of distribution, and which has helped me and which has helped like a lot of people, is like you can convert these same podcast into articles, right? And get the organic SEO traffic rolling on to your site as well.
Mhm.
So there are a few companies, or there are a few like websites or platforms that are building like the text translators for podcasts. Like for example, it's like a Google Alerts but for podcasts. So for example, let's say if we talked about all these tools, right? So imagine these tools are setting up some Google Alerts in terms of the podcast. So like if their tool is mentioned in some of the episode, So that this platform will tell them, oh, in which podcast and which episode your tool, your name, or these keywords were mentioned. So this is kind of like, very early thing, but it's kind of like, people are building on top of that. Like Apple and Spotify are working towards building these functionalities as well. But yeah, there's one platform which is called Listen Note, which allows you to do that. So I think that's one good thing. So that if you want to know where Moengage is mentioned, on what podcast Moengage as a keyword is mentioned, so you can just go and check out there, right? So I think this is one helpful platform.
Interesting. So I must try that, because I think, as voice search and voice as a medium gains popularity, this kind of becomes very, very important more and more, because right now, most of the search crawlers or the searching tools are focused on the text content. But yeah, I think this is very. Does it also look at videos like YouTube content, or it's just for podcasts?
So currently, this platform that I talked about is only for podcasts. It's not for video, as I am aware of. But yeah, I mean, it can work on videos as well. It's not like very different. You can just pass the audio content from the video, and then convert it to text and then give it in the search results, just like how this platform would be doing. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely one great way to keep on track, on top of what how people are where people are talking about you, where your customers or prospects or are talking about your brand and your company, or those specific keywords that you want to target, right? So yeah, I mean, so and it all comes like whatever efforts that we just discussed, right? So whatever what no matter whatever stack we use, it's if it's not helping you pushing in the right direction, they're not useful, right? So it's all, so tools will only help you, but it all comes down to what strategy you use and what content you create with the help of all these tools. So what has been the impact of all these tools for Moengage, right?
I think on multiple levels, right? At the core, when I look at tools within content marketing, I think most importantly, they are to improve the speed and the accuracy and help us be more effective. I think that's primarily the main reason why we should use tools at all in content marketing. And so whether it is the analytics tools or the research tools, that sort of aligns your gut. So usually, if I were to pick a topic to write, I might have a sense of what the audience wants, but if I want to sort of be razor sharp about it, and I want to be very, very specific, because how much content is out there. So if I want to stand
Right.
out, I want to reach the right people, it becomes very important to optimize it and speak about the right thing that people are looking for, rather than something that I have a hunch about. So I think right from sort of validating these ideas that we have and sort of making them more relevant to the audience, because
Right.
that's whom you're writing or talking or recording for. So making the content much, much more relevant. Second, I think making it more accurate, right? If I were to sit through a large doc and read through, fix edits, fix voice, it's a tedious task. So I think the editing tools sort of make that job much, much easier for us. It's so much faster. Plagiarism check, very important. I think especially if you have a lot of content that you're outsourcing, and you want to be sure that you have original content and it's not come from some other place, or something that you quoted from somewhere else, you've forgotten to mention source. So to be 100% sure that you are boosting your credibility, I think these tools really, really are important. You want to make your content look good, so you want to and make it more engaging and make it appeal to the audience, because short attention spans, people are looking at it on the mobile screens, so they have so much of options available. It's not that they are going to look at your content as well. So how do you make it better? So I think on these different levels, I find tools really helpful, right from making it better in terms of the topic or the theme, or making it more relevant to the audience in terms of improving the quality of the content itself, to making it into the right format or an engaging format that works for the audience. So I think there are multiple ways in which we use, and of course saves time, helps us be more creative with our work, so that we are faster and better at our work.
Totally. I mean, that really helps. And like talking about the outcome, right? So of
Mhm.
using all these tools and creating all this great content. So that so any success stories that that you want to share in terms in terms of Moengage that you have seen by using all these content stack, and to probably comparing it to before using this and maybe after using this?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that have worked very very dramatically for us. One, of course, is the infogram that I mentioned earlier. So creating an infographic, and making it look good or appeal to the audience is quite difficult, because it needs to look right. You need to have the right icons, and it needs to be laid out properly, and usually a designer's or a graphic person's job. But with infogram, we were able to build out an entire report. We published this e-commerce retention reports, we travel reports, recently published the COVID report. So publishing reports and data backed kind of graphics or documents becomes so much easier and so much more better. So it's a really really simple and easy tool. And I think in terms of, if I were to show results for it, or how did it work well for us, one, I think it saved us time, helps us do churn that content out really fast. Because also when you look at data backed content, right, it needs to be put to the market fast, right? Because otherwise the data sort of becomes old. So it shortens our time of production, because we don't have to go back and forth with a designer. It's easy to edit. Plus it has this interactive layer. It's so interesting to use, it's easy to use, firstly. So I think that tool has really really helped us boost our report production, and also make the report look good and interesting without too much effort. Plus I think on the cost side, if you're not going to a designer and all of that, so it's also cost implication. But mostly I would say from a use experience perspective for the user, and from a production standpoint, it's really worked for us. It's helped us scale work really fast. It also helped us get a lot more engaged users on that platform for us.
Yeah, I
um,
think what this stack really does is it's kind of, makes you more productive, allows you to do things a lot faster, and removes any chance for errors, and obviously, reduce any dependencies that you would have like with different teams, right? So for example, in case of this infograph that you mentioned, right? So that maybe allows you to reduce the dependency on a design team, and allows your content team to move faster, and take the content faster to publishing, right? So I mean that's really like great, and I think we have reached like the course here for this episode, and I just have a few lightning questions. So are you up for those?
yeah, let's see.
Awesome. uh, so yeah, what do you know about your work now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Yeah, I never thought content would be so important for any company's marketing back then, because at that point I think it was just one writer writing blogs. So this is something I never imagined would happen so fast.
Interesting. Interesting, yeah. And what did your biggest professional failure teach you?
I think not to give up and not to lose heart, and also to look at that situation in a neutral manner and find out why it went wrong. I think that's my biggest takeaway from any failures I've had. That I've sort of not started associating myself very emotionally with a success or failure for that matter. So I just look at the situation, if I've had a failure, and look at it, and sort of am able to now introspect on what went wrong and why I should move on from there.
Totally. And so my last question, what's the number one thing that has helped you shorten your learning curve?
Experiment, explore, keep trying, keep looking out. I think that's the only way you can get better and you can do it faster. So all the tools I've mentioned, all the various things I've tried, I think without experimenting them or even exploring or looking for them, I wouldn't know they exist. So yeah, I think a lot of things I've done or learned in my career, some have worked, some haven't. They've always been as a result of exploring or experimenting. So I think that is something that I would keep doing.
Interesting. So I think this has been a very insightful discussion. I mean, people are going to take away so much from this conversation, and I'm sure like each one would have something to as an actionable item for themselves. Like after listening to the podcast, when they go back to work, and they can look for some things that we discussed, and start implementing. So thanks for an insightful discussion, Akshata.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome.